What is up, everybody? Sean Sheehan back here with another edition of the betting show for Sherdog.com. Just about to head up to Dublin here for Bellator Dublin, a big weekend in the world of Irish mixed martial arts. And I have some bets from that card. Also, a couple of bets from the UFC card coming up. Not the best UFC card in the world. You know, we've a pay-per-view a few weeks ago. It was pretty good. We've another pay-per-view coming up, which is a little bit overrated, I would think, but still pretty good. And the cards in the middle, as always, they just seem to be not great, but there's a lot of movement, a lot of cancellations. Obviously, with the Dos Anjos Fiziev card last week was cancelled, and then, you know, luckily we had a good co-main event that was moved into the main event. This weekend, the exact same thing happens. Well, in a different, not the exact same thing, but obviously Beneil Dariush falls out of his fight with Islam Makhachev. Bobby Green steps in on short notice, so it's all changed. At Bellator as well, Peter Queally has fallen out of the co-main event there. He will not be replaced, it looks like, at the time of recording anyway. Ken Musa is off the card. He's looking to get the fight with Queally later on in the year again. So it's all kind of changed. But we have some bets. There's still some very good fights this weekend, especially in the Bellator card. Obviously a little bit, a little bit biased being from Ireland. But I have some bets from that and some bets from the UFC as well. Not the best week last week. We only got one bet right out of the four. And this flyer, you know, this flyer bet, I'm lucky I kept it separate from the other bets because it's like 0 from 5 so far. But I believe we're just around the 50%, maybe a little bit lower than 50% on the other bets. So that's not too bad. I think I got I got one the last 2 weeks in a row, but before that I either got 2 or 3 the whole time. So we're doing pretty well for the year altogether, and hopefully we can give you another couple of winning bets here as we go into the weekend in the world of mixed martial arts. So let's get straight into it. Before we get straight into it, please bet responsibly. Don't bet any more than you can. I know, you know, it's a tough time of the year as well. Just, you know, we're 2 months after Christmas now, and nearly 3 months after Christmas, and maybe the January blues are over and we're getting back into it. But calm down, you know, with the summer coming, save the money. Couple of bets here and there, nothing too serious, but don't go overboard with it or anything like that. So please bet responsibly. And you know, if you're going to the fights this weekend, get a spare old tenner, throw it on one of these bets maybe, and that'll be it. But don't go overboard with it. So let's get into the bets. I'm going to start. I'm going to go back and forth here on my bets this week, and we will talk about the cards kind of as we go. The first bet I'm going to go for here is at Bellator Dublin, and I'm going with Danni McCormack to win straight up, first of all. Now, I was going to look at the new common event, Sinead Kavanagh versus Liam McCormack, but I kind of half backed out in that one, as I think a lot of Irish people are sitting on the fence on that one, although we will talk about that in a second. But it's a massive weekend for women's MMA in Ireland, and Danni McCormack as well is really one of the big up-and-comers. She is a very, very good fighter, very good on the mic as well, very funny, pure Irish, you know. She did a great interview with my colleague Ian O'Neill over in Severe May the other day. If you haven't checked that out yet, please do. Absolutely fantastic interview. And she's a very good fighter as well. In her last fight, she wasn't happy with it, even though she got the finish in the third round and dominated the first 2 rounds. And you know someone is good when they're like that. You know, you love to see someone unhappy after a win. You know, that shows you that Danni McCormack is a winner. And she'll need to be a winner here on Friday. And as I said, she's minus 205 here. Maybe you throw it in on an accumulator or something like that. But I like that bet at that price just because of the way Danni fights and the way she can fight in a lot of different ways. Her opponent, Stephanie Page, a very, very good striker, very good kickboxer, lots of kickboxing, and I think Muay Thai fights as well. That head kick is something that really stands out when you're watching her fight. She goes for it all the time, and she lands it a lot of the time as well. And, you know, for Danni, she has talked about this week how she wants to be more of a striker, how she wants to stand and bang. Now, maybe that's a little bit hoping that Stephanie kind of listens to those interviews and thinks, oh, I'm going to get this striker matchup. Then she goes inside and takes her out. I could see that happening, honestly. And I think Danni will strike with her a little bit, especially on the inside. Maybe a little bit of dirty boxing and things like that. Now, the odds aren't out for the submission or anything yet, but that would be the one I'd be going for. And sometimes the odds will probably, you know, the undercard Bellator fights, they might never come out for it. But if it is by submission, that would have been one of my bets of the week. Honestly, I think she will win by submission. But I think her price straight up at -205 is a pretty good price. That's definitely one that I'd be looking at getting on this weekend if you're travelling to the fights or if you're watching from abroad. And Danni is a real top prospect coming out of Ireland. If you haven't seen her fight yet, look, she has all the skills, but she has the toughness as well, and she has the mentality, and she's kind of... Sometimes in Bellator, it's very hard for the Irish people to kind of move on and move to the next level, but it feels almost like a benefit to Danni that they don't have their division, because it feels like she's putting together a group of wins so that if, you know, maybe the UFC opportunity pops up, she'll be ready. She'll be she's 5-0 at the moment, go to 6-0, go to 7-0. She'll be ready for that move over to the UFC and go straight in, you know, with some good fighters in that division. Now maybe Bellator will make the division and she'll stay in Bellator, but at the moment it doesn't look like that's happening. So she seems hell-bent on putting all these wins together, and she's talking about being a world champion. And, you know, she's a very, very good prospect, and maybe an overlooked prospect in Irish MMA as well, because we talk a lot about Ian Gary and Paul Hughes and James Gallagher and, you know, Sinead and Leah and others as well. And you know, Danni's been putting together quietly a good run here, and I'm looking forward to seeing her fight the weekend. This, to me as well, is the toughest fight of her career, and, you know, the -205 price is probably a fair one. I think lots of other people on the card, like Lee Hammond, I think we'll get to it, but I think he's -500. And other fighters are big enough prices as well, but Danni is not the biggest price in the world, and I think that is to do with how good Stephanie Page is, and I think, you know, the bookmakers have looked in that as well, but also, you know, while believing in Danni's ability. So yeah, that's the first one I'm going for. Danni by submission, maybe, if that comes out later in the week, or maybe by decision. I think that's how she'll get it done, as long as she can kind of come through that danger and get away from those head kicks from Page on the outside. Right, next one here, I'm going to go for Charlie Leary on the same card. He's fighting Davy Gallen. And look, Davy's a very good fighter. He beat Ken Musa last time out, well-rounded. He's, you know, probably best known, and he sounds like he's English, Davy Gallen, or maybe it's Davy Gallen, but he's French, Davy. And he's best known for knocking out Ross Pearson with that tornado kick. Remember that? Or like a Rolling Thunder or something like that. Remember he knocked him out with that? But Charlie Leary is one of these guys, and he's an underdog here, +155. I know maybe that's the right line. Maybe Davy should be a deserving favourite, but I pick Charlie Leary anytime I get a chance. Because the main reason I do it, I believe in the skill set of someone like a Charlie Leary. I love lads who throw straight punches, jab down through the middle, get the backhand behind it, and are just solid fighters. And honestly, those lads will win more fights than they lose, and they'll also win more underdog matchups than they lose as well. Now, not to say that Gallen isn't a good fighter and he can't do the same or whatever, but I just think Charlie Leary is criminally underrated. Honestly, I think he's a very, very good fighter. The way he beat sorry, I just moved my camera there. The way he beat Kiefer Crosby was absolutely fantastic. And I really, really rate him a lot. And I think when I went on here, I saw him as the underdog at +155, that was the first bet. So, you know, I said this before in this show, but sometimes I just scroll through the betting odds before I do anything else and look and see one that stands out to me, and then I go and maybe watch a few fights to do other things. This was the one that stood out to me, a +155. Look, it's a very close fight, as I mentioned. I think Davy is very, very good. He's a wild... You know, he can strike. Whenever you see someone throwing a Rolling Thunder, you know they're a wild striker, but you also know they're happy enough to be on the ground, because you don't throw that technique, I suppose you'd call it. I was going to call it a strike, but it's more of a bit of madness, unless you're willing to fight on the ground, and he absolutely is. But I just think Charlie's ability to kind of pick at you, and not a Pokemon Pikachu, but, you know, pick at you, is brilliant. Is absolutely brilliant. He's not like, and he can knock someone with one punch, but he's not a one punch knockout kind of guy, and I mean that in the best sense of the word. He is a guy that will literally break you down piece by piece, and, you know, break a bit of your nose and cut your eye and cut you open and make it a dirty fight. Like, Charlie could be losing a fight in lots of ways, but he will make it so tough on you that you'll end up losing in the end. And that's the kind of the way I see this one going. I think this is going to be a bloody long fight. And I think in the end, I think Charlie's just his ability and his basics which are very, very good, will see him through. And that's the reason I'm picking Charlie Leary here at plus 155. Right, I'm going to jump over to the UFC now. Oddly enough, I have 3 bets from the UFC. I was thinking I'd be struggling for one, but I picked 3 out from the UFC. First of all, I'm going for the main event. Islam Makhachev or however you want to say it, versus Bobby Green. And I'm going for the over 1.5 rounds here at minus 160. Now, the reason I'm going for this is I fully believe the Makhachev style, which is a little bit different to the Khabib style, but I believe that with the Khabib style too, I believe the person who will beat that is either a wrestler who's better than them or a striker who's like very good on the outside and moves really well and is very hard to catch. Now, I think Bobby Green is that. I think he moves very well on the outside. I think he's hard to catch. You know, good takedown defense. Okay, you want to have unbelievable takedown defense to stop Makhachev. But I think he can stay elusive for long periods. I think he can survive time on the ground. And now, okay, it could be the end of the second. It could be in the third round or something where he gets finished. I'm absolutely picking Makhachev to win the fight. And look, I might be wrong. Makhachev might take him down and submit him in 30 seconds. Who knows? It's on short notice and everything like that. But I can't not look at what I've said over the last few years and how that style is kind of beaten, and look at Green's style and his belief as well. I just think he will believe in himself for the first few rounds. He'll know he's going to get taken down at some stage, and he'll be prepared for that, obviously, and mentally prepared, if not, you know, technically or physically prepared in terms of the short notice. But I just think Bobby Green will survive the first round and a half, and that's a good price at minus 160, the over on that. So, you know, absolutely picking Makhachev to win. He's a massive favourite. We'll get to his price in a second, but I think the over 1.5 rounds is a good bet here, and that's definitely the one. That's definitely the one I'm going for here in this one, in the main event. We'll talk a little bit more about the main event, obviously, in a second when I pull up the rest of the prices. The next one here I'm going for is Joel Alvarez again. The last time I gave him, I think he was almost a plus 400 or something like that. He's a plus 225 here. Now, he's fighting obviously Arman Tsarukyan, who's a very, very good fighter as well, well-rounded and all of that. The big issue for Joel, obviously, is making the weight. I think the last 2 times out, he's missed the weight. So that's going to be the big issue for him if the fight even happens. You know, you could be coming to Friday evening and this bet might be already gone. But if he makes the weight, if he gets in there, if the fight happens, he's another one. Look, it's a running team in my picks, maybe. I believe in guys with very, very good skill sets. I believe in guys who are long and jab and fight from the outside and are just technically very good. And I think Joel Alvarez, honestly, is one of the best in the UFC at doing that. Now, Tsarukyan is very good, and I think he's more of a, rather than a technician, he's more of maybe a little bit more power, but he can do it all. And, you know, obviously he can wrestle and he can find the ground as well. Whereas, you know, Alvarez can as well. I'm not mistaken, he's a black belt, you know, but he can do it all, and he's a very, very good fighter. It's a very even fight, and the reason I'm picking Alvarez more than anything else is the same reason I picked Charlie Leary. I looked down through the bets and I saw him as a big underdog. So that's definitely the one I'm going for here. You know, this fight was not up on some of the betting sites, so I had to go and look for it. And my good friend Spencer Kite put up the preview this week, and this fight looks to be still on anyway. Maybe they're leaving it off because I think Joel Alvarez will miss weight, so maybe you'll have to wait later in the week to actually get this. It's not on best fight odds. It is on some of the Irish bookmakers here and stuff, so I'm confident enough going with it around the plus 225 as well. That's not the exact price here, but I honestly, like, Joel Alvarez to me is a guy who, if he can get the weight going, if he can put it all together, like, I think he could be a future title challenger. I'm not going to say he's going to be a future champion or anything like that, but he's the type of guy who will win more fights than he loses against good guys. I just think his technique and his ability is superior to most people in most divisions. Now, maybe the unfortunate thing for him, he's at lightweight. I assume this one is at lightweight as well. Maybe he's gone up, but no, I think it is at lightweight, and that's the apex, I suppose, of technique in the UFC or in any organization nearly. So that might be his issue. But in this one, I think he'll win a couple of rounds against Tsarukyan. I think he'll win the fight. Now, it might be the second and third round, but I think he'll do enough, and I think he'll get it done here. So plus 225, Joel Alvarez. So yeah, those are my 4 bets. Very hard to pick a flyer bet this week, so it's not as big as usual, but I've gone for Terrance McKinney excuse me, straight up to win by decision, not straight up, so to win by decision at plus 430. You know, obviously he came out the last time and he won, you know, by by like, what was it, 7-8 second finish against, was it Matt Frivola? But look, I think he's a well-rounded, good fighter. I haven't watched a bit of him. He's the type of guy, I think, as well, who has kind of talked a lot and he'll want to back it up. You know, Faraz Ziam, you know, his opponent as well, he's a very, very good fighter. I think he debuted over in Fight Island, and he's actually the favourite for this fight, but it's very, very close. You know, some places minus 120, plus 100 for McKinney. And McKinney probably would have been one of my bets straight up if I wasn't looking for a flyer. But I like the fact that he's been given a tougher matchup, and I think the same could be said for Faraz Ziam. Given a very even matchup, this is good matchmaking between two up-and-coming guys in that division, where there are lots of up-and-coming guys, so I don't mind them being matched as much. And I think it's going to be a close fight. I think, you know, it could be 2-1 or 3 close rounds even. And in that sort of fight, even though McKinney, you know, he has the power and he looks to finish guys all the time, Faraz Ziam won't be an easy guy to get out of there. So I do think this fight will go long. Now, I said the same last week with Johnny Walker and Jamahal Hill, and that didn't go very long, so what do I know, I suppose. But I think at plus 430 to win by decision, when he's plus 100 just to win straight up in an even matchup, yeah, I think that's a good price. So that's the one I'm looking at. Right, let's run through some of the rest of the UFC prices here. Now, this card is not great whatsoever. The main event, Bobby Green and Makhachev. Bobby Green is a massive plus 550 underdog. Do you know what? I say massive there. I thought he'd be bigger, to be honest. Minus 900 here in some places for Makhachev. In other places, minus 700, minus 800. So big favourite there. He is. Bobby Green, obviously the massive underdog. If you fancy Makhachev to get it done by submission, it's only minus 110. So not great there at all. If you fancy Green to get it done, plus 600 to win inside the distance. The Makhachev KO TKO is plus 385. So that's a good one. If you're looking, you know, for maybe a takedown and ground and pound, plus 385, but Bobby Green is tough to get out of there. But I like that over, you know, the over 1.5 rounds, minus 160, as I said earlier. The over 2.5 rounds, if you fancy going a little bit further, is plus 115. So that'd be the bet I'd be kind of pulling out there. But yeah, look, Makhachev, a lot of the time, I always like to look at the TKO for him, but he gets a lot of submissions as well, so maybe the best avoiding that one. Or, you know, win inside the distance, Makhachev, minus 225. Not a great price there either. But, you know, I'm actually looking forward to that fight, oddly enough. I think it's going to be a fun fight, even though seemingly on paper it's a mismatch. I think if Bobby Green had more of a camp, it would be less of a mismatch. Obviously, you know, Makhachev is a massive favourite, but I do like the styles matchup, and I think it will make for a more interesting fight maybe than we were expecting. Misha Cirkunov is the favourite at minus 130 over Wellington Turman. I think it's his second fight down at middleweight. You know, Misha Cirkunov, you don't know what you're going to get with him. When I saw him first, I saw his first few fights, I thought he was a very good fighter. And look, he's still a very good fighter, don't get me wrong. But you know, sometimes he turns up and sometimes he doesn't turn up. He's one of those guys to me. The fight to go to a decision is plus 150. To finish inside the distance, minus 185. The over is minus 170 of 1.5 rounds. The under that is plus 140. I would probably I'd probably go for the over there in that one. I think it will be a close fight. I'll probably just about pick Misha Cirkunov in that, but it's a close one. Kim versus Cachoeira, another very close betting fight there, minus 163 for Kim, who's the favourite, plus 143 for Cachoeira. Arman Petrosian and Rodriguez, Petrosian obviously the kickboxer, plus 140 over Rodriguez, who is minus 160. If you fancy Petrosian to get the KO, it's plus 175, which, you know, you'd probably go for rather than betting for him straight up. So that's probably a good bet there if you're looking at that fight. And Bahamondes and Wrong even. That is one of the standout fights. As I mentioned again, my friend Spencer Kite wrote about that fight. That's a very good fight, and I'm sure the lads broke it down as well on the preview. Bahamund is very fun. Wrong coming into the UFC as well, but a lot of hype behind him. Plus 185 for Wrong, and Bahamund is the favourite, minus 220. So, I would probably go for the underdog there. Although I like Bahamundes a lot, I'll go for wrong there at plus 185. As I mentioned, Terrance McKinney is plus 100 over minus 120. Ziam, Hannah Goldie, and Jayu Frey. That's a very good fight as well. Frey's the favourite there, minus 180, plus 155 for Goldie. Perez is almost a 2-1. Underdog there against Martinez is minus 225 even. Nunes minus 205 and Pascual plus 175. Hernandez is minus 133 plus 133. Plus 113 for Altamirano. No. I'm reading lots of these names for the first time ever. This card is it's a rough one. Gilmore plus 275 for Brajamin minus 350. There's also KSW this weekend. Now, the odds were here earlier on, but they seem to have disappeared. Oh, here they are again. Dario Stocic is plus 200 if you fancy him over Phil DeFries. I fancy Phil there, minus 260. That's a close fight. I thought that'd be maybe a little bit further apart in terms of betting. But I think that's a very good fight. Bartonsky versus Grezep. Definitely ruined those names. Very close one as well there. But it's a very, very... very good card there in KSW again this weekend. They always put on fun cards if maybe there aren't as many standout names. But I'm looking forward to maybe catching that next week when I get back from up in Dublin. But then let's talk a little bit more about Bellator Dublin before I go on some of the odds here. The main event, of course, is one I kind of looked over there. Austin Vanderford is only plus 195 and Mousasi is only minus 235 here, which is maybe a little bit closer than some people would have expected. I do think Vanderford has a chance though. No, I wouldn't be betting for him, betting on him at plus 195. Maybe if it was plus 295 I would be looking at that, but I think he has a chance. I can't get that King Mo fight out of my head. I can't get the Lovato Jr. fight out of my head. Like, Mousasi can be taken down, and Vanderford is a very, very good takedown artist. Look, I'm still picking Mousasi and going for him, but I would avoid it at that price, honestly, a minus 235. I'm looking forward to seeing the fight, obviously, the main event, and a title fight in Ireland, so it's an interesting one, maybe on Vanderford by decision, if it's big money and maybe a good flyer bet for the end of the week. But yeah, I think I will avoid that one. But some of the Irish fighters on this card, Kieran Clark minus 400, favoured over plus 300 Tunkara. I watched some Tunkara fights and I think he's better than a plus 300 underdog, to be honest. I think he's very, very good. Now, Kieran Clark is very good as well, and I think Kieran Clark will win the fight, and I think he deserves to be favoured, absolutely. But I'd probably put it closer to, plus 150 to minus 150 or something like that, maybe. I think it's a closer fight to that. Kieran Clark obviously definitely deserves to be favoured, but Tunkara is a very good fighter, and I think Kieran Clark keeps getting tough matchups, and the reason he does is because he's a very, very good fighter. So I'm very much looking forward to that. Nathan Kelly, Scott Pedersen is a live underdog here, I think, at plus 190. He's a very good team fighting out of Jack Shore's gym and Richard Shore. Nathan Kelly is, I think he's 3-2 now as a pro or something like that. Is a good fighter, good hands, but I think Pedersen is 1-2, but he's fought Matthew Elliott and a few others as well in Cage Warriors and got very, very tough matchups and hasn't been able to show anything in his career yet. So that might be an underdog pick there against one of the Irish guys. As I mentioned earlier, Charlie Leary, Davy Gallen. Davy Gallen minus 185, Charlie Leary plus 155. I talked about that earlier. Dara Kelly is minus 400 over plus 300 Junior Morgan. I think that's just about right. I was talking to a couple of the UK guys covering the sport the other day, and they were saying, Junior Morgan, good fighter, but I think Dara Kelly the fitting favourite there, so that price is just about right. Some more of the undercard fights before we get to the main card. There's a heavyweight fight, Sakaram minus 325. He was good in his last fight over in Dublin over Kirill Silidnikov. Here is plus 250. Sanchez is plus 500 over Magomed Sharapov, minus 800. That's actually been bumped up to the main card, which is a bit odd. In Ireland, you think of when to be the Irish fighters, but however, Bellator go to Bellator. Brett Johns as well is on this card. He's minus 220 over Kakarov, who's a very good fighter. Watch a few of his fights. Probably still go with Johns, and even at that price, maybe he's worth trying to accumulator. I mentioned Danni McCormack earlier on. She's actually in now. I can change my price from earlier on. She's actually into minus 185, so that's coming in a little bit closer there. So you can get a better price than Danni McCormack now. Plus 155 for Stephanie Page. Daniel Skatizi then plus 250 over Vladimir Tokov, minus 325. also as well, before I get to the main card, one of the standouts, and I mentioned him earlier on, Lee Hammond, really good up-and-comer from SBG, looked fantastic in his pro debut, now making his Bellator debut here. He's fighting Jamie Hay from the UK, who has been around for a long time, promoting and doing different things. Never fought anyone near the level of Lee Hammond, even though he's 2-0. You definitely fancy Lee to win that one. Minus 500 is probably the right price. Maybe it should be even a little bit higher. Another one maybe to throw into an accumulator. You couldn't be betting straight up at minus 500, but very, very good price on that one. Then we have the two big fights for Irish MMA, I suppose. Brian Moore on the main card against Jarnell Lugo. The winner of that could be having a ranking alongside their name this time next week. Moore is the underdog again. He seems to always be the underdog, a plus 250. Lugo minus 325. I think that's a closer fight, honestly. I had this in my bets and I kind of deleted it. This would be my sixth bet to go for Brian Moore. I went for him the last time and he almost won out in Russia against that really tough Russian who we saw fighting again a few weeks ago, and he was really, really good. This guy's a top prospect. Brian Moore nearly beat him, and he spoke afterwards about the issues he had kind of coming into that fight. So I wouldn't be ruling Brian Moore out here at all. Lugo's a very, very good fighter, but I think minus 325 is too much. Look, if you were to give me a pick straight up, I'd probably just about pick Lugo, but I think at plus 250, Moore is definitely a live underdog here, and this to me is close enough to a pick 'em fight. I'm really looking forward. It's going to be a striking matchup, I think. I think it's going to go all the way. I think it's going to go to the distance. So I'm looking forward to seeing that one. And the big fight for Irish MMA, I suppose, is Liam McCourt, Sinead Kavanagh. Sinead is the favourite, minus 130, plus 100 for Liam McCourt. I did a live preview the other night over in Severe, man. Everyone picked Sinead apart from me, even though, and I kind of picked Leah because I had to. But I look, I'm sitting on the fence with this one, but this is a fight you have to sit on the fence with because we don't know who's going to win. If the fight says standing, Sinead Kavanagh is a 5-time Irish national boxing champion and she's going to win that fight. Let's be honest here. Leah has absolutely improved, but she'd probably admit that herself. If it goes to the ground, Leah McCourt is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Judo black belt and she's fantastic on the ground. Big and strong for that weight division as well. And, Sinead, coming from boxing, transitioning over, she's done very well. Her takedown defense has really improved over the years, but it's going to be a struggle for her if it gets there. So that's what this whole fight is about. It is striker versus grappler, and whoever can win the battle to make it a strike and a grappling match will win this fight, and that's absolutely the way it'll go. Who will win that? I don't know. Look, I think they have the price just about right. I would nearly even have it more even than plus 100 to minus 130. And this is a massive fight for Irish MMA. Two ranked world fighters. Even though, okay, it might be the strongest division in the world, absolutely, but Bellator have that best division apart from, the Amanda Nunes and maybe Kayla Harrison as well. And these two are ranked, 4 and 5. So they're, without a shadow of a doubt, I don't think anyone could disagree, in the top 10 in that division in the world. And for two women to come out of Ireland is a massive weekend for Irish MMA, massive weekend for Irish MMA in general, and that's a real standout fight. Irish woman versus Irish woman. No fight has ever been seen like this before. We had Norman Park and Paul Redmond, which was a massive fight for Irish MMA. I think it was on KSW. I think it was KSW, yeah, or maybe Bellator. But yeah, this is I think another level, and I'm really, really looking forward to all the fights this weekend, and I hope you are too. Let me know what you're betting on in the comment section below. If you're listening to this on YouTube, watching this on YouTube, you can also listen to it on Spotify, and now actually it's iTunes, Podcast Republic, everywhere else. Please click subscribe, search Sherdog Podcast. You can get this podcast and all the other great podcasts that go up in Sherdog as well, from the lads over there. Or if you're listening to this, you can watch it on YouTube and see my big ugly mug looking back at you. Looking forward to meeting a few of you this weekend, maybe above at the fights. If you see me, say hello. Really looking forward to getting back to MMA and watching the fights this weekend. I'll leave it at that, lads. Thanks very much for watching and listening. My name is Sheehan for Sherdog.com, and I'll see you all next time.